Man, the playoffs. What a time to be alive.
Every single series has been so intense with no letdown.
We can say that we have learned a lot of things because of these matchups. Welcome to Mix TV, where we talk everything hoops. My name is Eli.
And my name is Pat, and today here are the 7 things that the 2021 NBA playoffs has taught us. We're going straight into it. You all ready? Let's get started.
First, there is no number one team.
Unlike other years, where there have been a clear number 1 team that went all the way to the finals, this year's best team, the Brooklyn Nets, lost.
And not just that, they lost in the second round in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
So, like we said, there is not a team that is completely dominating the NBA right now.
The conference finals were Milwaukee versus Atlanta and the Clippers versus Suns. No one predicted that.
Exactly. And this non-dominance in the NBA is a great thing, as we are going to see more competitive playoffs in the near future.
Which brings us to number 2, no lone wolves.
Basically, what we're trying to say is that to be successful in the playoffs, your team needs at least 2 All-Stars. Think about the unsuccessful teams this year and what they had in common.
They had only one star, or only one star played well. Look at Luka with the absence of Porzingis, or Ja Morant who is by himself on the Grizzlies.
Or Tatum with no Jaylen Brown. Or Lillard by himself.
Yet the best example is Joel Embiid with the absence of Ben Simmons. But we'll talk about him later.
In conclusion, it doesn't matter how deep your team may be, you need that other star to score when the chips are down.
Speaking of team structures, the third thing we learned is that number 3, depth quality is better than depth quantity.
Something that is always controversial, but it's better to have 3 extra really good players rather than 8 average players.
For example, the Miami Heat are extremely deep in terms of defensive and 3-point shooters, but the Bucks swept the Heat and really had only 3 players off the bench contributing.
Those 3 players in Tucker, Forbes, and Portis, and a little bit of Connaughton is a big reason why the Bucks swept the Heat and beat the Nets in a 7-game series.
Same thing with the Suns and the Clippers. They don't have the largest amount of players, but the extra bench players they do have contribute big in every single game, and they're a key factor for all their wins. Thus, we can really say it's about the quality of your bench and not how many players you have.
Which brings us to number 4. CP3 is still a top 10 PG and is closer to the top 5 than the number 10.
Man, I remember before the start of the season when nobody cared about the Suns or how they got Chris Paul because he was 36 years old. But even when the Suns started winning, everyone thought it was a fluke, and now they're in the finals.
CP3 is just proving the fact that hunger and passion for the game can really get you far in the league. Not to mention, his experience and playstyle is just perfect for absolutely any team.
CP3 deserves the name point guard and is showing why in these playoffs.
We just talked about the point guard. Now, let's talk about the most disappointing point guard this year.
Number 5, Ben Simmons has been the worst star in the playoffs. Here comes the Simmons slander.
As much as we want to be positive about Ben Simmons, we just cannot with the atrocious performance he performed, especially in the second round.
Ben Simmons scored a combined 19 points in games 5, 6, and 7 against the Hawks. That is horrible for any offensive player of his caliber.
And people can argue that he is a defensive specialist, and he gets assists and plays good defense.
Okay, fair, but the Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, scored 20 more points than Ben Simmons this whole playoffs, and played in one less game.
They are both defensive specialists, but also the second star in their respective teams. They are required to score or get buckets. Yes, Ben Simmons did get 14 assists in Game 7, but he only shot 3 times the whole game.
That is either a sign of fear of shooting or just a lack of offensive pressure. The Hawks aren't even a defensive special team. And that's why Ben Simmons has been the most underperforming All-Star in this year's playoffs.
Speaking of point guards, number 6, there is now a new top 5 point guard rankings.
Yeah, the playoffs has proved who is the best of the best on that guard spot.
Number 1 to 3 in that order are Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, and Kyrie.
In past years, we've had Kemba, Russ, and even CP3 in those last 2 spots. But those last 2 spots now have to be Luka Doncic and Trae Young.
As much as we want to put Russ and CP3 on those spots, age is catching up to them and their primes are coming to an end or near the end.
While Luka and Trae carried their teams as the number 1 option at the age of 22 years old. Technically, they're not even in their primes yet, and they're doing all this.
It's just so amazing to watch these 2 young players from the 2018 draft flourish and see what they have stored for us in the future.
And lastly, we wanted to end this with number 7, the new generation is here. The old generation of 2000 and 2010 are coming to an end. And this playoffs has been the fire that ignites this era, because almost every team has an upcoming star.
Jason Tatum in Boston, Julius Randle in New York, Trae Young in Atlanta,
Luka in Dallas, Jokic on the Nuggets, Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee,
the Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid combo in Philly.
the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert combo in Utah, even Ja Morant on the Grizzlies.
Look at all these up-and-coming stars that are going to lead the next generation in the NBA.
And taken, we didn't even mention Ingram and Zion on the Pelicans, Anthony Edwards and Cat in Minnesota, the Raptors' whole roster, and even LaMelo Ball and his crowd in Charlotte.
The future looks so bright for the NBA, and we're so excited for the rivalries that are bound to happen. This is what made the late 2000s and the 2010s such a great era.
Anyways, that's our video. I hope you like some of the things we have learned in this year's playoffs, and we'll see you guys next time. And we're gone.